A quintessential London dry gin. Today at Bespoke Unit, we'll be sampling Beefeater 24. Tune in. For our review, we use the Bespoke Unit Liquor Formula, which is a quantifiable review matrix that you can use for all your own tasting purposes. You can also jump right underneath the video and find the filled out formula with the final score for Beefeater 24. You can also download a blank copy of the formula that you can use for your own tasting purposes and writing your own notes at home when sampling various spirits, be it whiskey, rum, cognac, or clear spirits like vodka and gin. We'll be sampling one of the most iconic gin brands, one of the most iconic London dry gins out there on the market, and that is the Beefeater 24. Now, the 24 in the name of Beefeater indicates a steeping or maceration time of 24 hours right in the city of London for the 12 botanicals that make the recipe for this wonderful gin. The mix is a rather traditional, classic London dry style gin base with juniper, angelica root. You get some citrus there. In particular with the 24, it's grapefruit peel. And what gives a little bit of an edge is Japanese tea and Chinese green tea. So you have sencha in there, you have a little bit of that green tea connotation, making the overall impression of the 24 more lively and a bit more dry and astringent in the very back. The bottle is rather iconic in and by itself with the traditional white and red color coding going on here. You also find that beautiful embossing of the flowers and the botanicals all over the iconic square bottle here. Trusty little plastic screw cap on top, which wouldn't bother me all too much since this is a standard gin that you have in your daily rotation. You will use it very often, so there would be hardly any sense to pop a traditional natural cork on there. This one is a 45% alcohol by volume gin, so quite a bit of oomph. It packs a punch without ever losing its elegance and creaminess overall. Other than that, not much to be said about the packaging and the label, other than there's a few indication about the origin, about the award-winning acknowledgements for this gin, as well as a little bit of London scenery going on here in the back label, besides the traditional information that you would find on a label like the alcohol and the centiliter amount. Let's get right to it. Let's pour a glass and give this gin a try. As always, in terms of color, there is not much to be said since this is a clear liquid. It's a rather thick and oily viscosity with a very dense pearl chain dancing around the rim of the glass. It's crisp, it's not hazy whatsoever, no impurities that you could detect in the glass. The first smell is actually quite sweet, I have to confess. It's got a lovely orange marmalade note, a little bit of fresh citrus peel. The grapefruit, one of the key botanicals for the 24, is very present, it's very prominent. Only in the second step you would find the juniper note that makes the distinct element of a London dry gin. The tea is something you would need a lot of creativity for in order to detect that, at least from an olfactory standpoint. It's hard to pinpoint which particular type of tea is there, even though in the smell you could probably get some Earl Grey tea, which beautifully fits the theme of London and afternoon tea, obviously. But in terms of the sencha or the Chinese green tea, that would be hard to really make out. Now, what else is there? A little bit of a floral touch. I would say there's violet, chamomile, and an ever so slight rose petal note towards the very end of the nasal expression. It's a mellow, it's a rather sweet, it's a well-rounded sensation that I'm presented with here. Not overly complex, not overly intense, but it's all rather smooth, elegant, and in a very creamy, velvety overall setting. The first sip on the tongue, also smooth, also with a slight sweetness up front. But what is clearly obvious here is that the citrus note, the citrus quality, the liveliness, and also the floral element is way more prominent on the palate here. So there is sort of a dry, herbaceous, floral nuance coming through. This time it reminds me rather of thyme, dried lavender. The juniper then comes back after a couple of seconds and it makes itself heard towards the finish. That is medium long, I would say. As with the nose, the gustatory sensation is medium complex, rather mellow and mild, not overly intense, not offensive whatsoever. For 45% alcohol by volume, this goes down rather smoothly and nicely, so no burn whatsoever, quite mellow and creamy, and this will be a charm for all the gin and tonic lovers out there who like their G&T on the creamy and sort of mellow side. Same for a traditional dry martini cocktail when you stir down the 24 with Le Lipprat, for example, or with another dry vermouth of your choice. Be careful with the vermouth, not overdo it, because this one already brings quite a bit of sweetness and mellowness to the table. So if you want a bone dry, very crisp dry martini, you'd probably be looking more at the traditional Beefeater, less so the 24. I'm a huge fan of pouring a gin and juice with the Beefeater 24. You could go for some grapefruit, obviously, highlighting some more of the bitter, peppery, fresh, prickly, and citrusy nuances of the gin. And another particular favorite that I could wholeheartedly recommend is topping it off with some freshly juiced watermelon, or you could also have the watermelon as a side-by-side snack or finger food pairing with this gin. Afternoon tea is all the rage here and is all the theme here. You could have some scones with a little bit of clotted cream and raspberry or strawberry marmalade. I had some petit four, which was also a gorgeous pairing because the creaminess, the slight sweetness, the chocolate, in particular the white chocolate and the marzipan, beautifully accompany the Beefeater 24. Also, cigars are a very good accompaniment here. This time I went for a classic Cuban smoke with a wonderful limited edition from Cohiba, but I would choose something that brings a bit of spice, a bit of character, a bit of funkiness to the table, so that the overall mellowness and charm from the gin is ever so slightly counterbalanced, and it just adds a layer of excitement and a layer of complexity once you have a more robust, characterful cigar. With this being a rather affordable bottle, the value for money is excellent. You could make this your standard everyday pouring gin for all your preferred cocktails and long drinks. Few people will probably drink gin straight or neat with just a block of ice. For me, that is a wonderful way of serving it. With the 24, I definitely choose a grapefruit zest as garnish because it's so prominently featured amongst the botanicals. So it's definitely a versatile gin, medium complex for every particular occasion. I love the packaging. It's simple, it's elegant, and as I already mentioned, it just is an all-time classic and you can't go wrong with that. That's it for today. Give it a try, let us know what you think. You will find all various spirits, cigar guides and reviews on our Bespoke Unit website as well as our YouTube channel. We have plenty of content as to which are the best gin cocktails that you should definitely try. And we'd love to hear your feedback and your thoughts on this particular variation as well as our other content. And I'll see you next time here at our Bespoke Unit channel. Until then, with my very best wishes and spirits. Cheers.